In this video, I'm going to talk about the Afrocentrics. What is an Afrocentric? This is your pro-black, back to Africa, your red, black, and green Negro. I wrote a blog about this about 2013, I believe. I called it the Afrocentrics Part 1. And this is your pro-black, again, your pro-black, back to Africa, red, black, and green Negro. And this is the guy, he's pumping his fist in the air, talking about um, Hotep, because there's two types. There's the Hotep Negro, and there's your black militant Negro. But they're both the same thing. They both want to go back to Africa. They both no, they don't really want to go back to Africa. They talk about going back to Africa. They talk about pro-blackness. They talk about you know empowering the black community. But this is all superficial, surface. It's a gimmick, is what it is. And this is primarily a gimmick that they use to get women. Because these guys really are not about improving the black community. They're not about taking the black community to the next level. They're not about empowering anyone. They're just about, hustling. It's a hustle. It's a gimmick. It's just like, your wrestler gimmick, like your John Cena or your Brock Lesnar or your Kurt Angle. It's a gimmick that they use to get people's attention because, again, these guys have no social skills. They have no interpersonal skills. They do not know how to navigate through life. So it's like a little kid putting on a Halloween costume or putting on a security blanket, and this is what they do. They put on this made in Taiwan dashiki, this little kufi hat, and they sit there talking about, the black man is the original man. No, this is true, but they use and they sit there and they'll go into these long diatribes with their 50 cent words. These guys are masters of 50 cent words because they sit there, they'll read a dictionary. A lot of them they'll read a couple of Afrocentric books. Your autobiography of Malcolm X, good book though, but or they'll read some other books talking about black history and black culture, superficial books at that. They won't really go into any stuff like your E. Franklin Frazier's Black Bourgeoisie. They won't read your three Negro classics. Your autobiography of an ex-colored man. Um, your Up from Slavery. There's the other one by Booker T. Washington. I think that was the one. I don't know. Um, they won't read any of these books. They won't read Our Kind of People. They won't do any type of hardcore research on black history and black culture. They won't even do any, you know, real hardcore research on Africa. And the other ones on the Egyptian side, your Hotep Negroes. They don't even know the difference between Aset and Isis. That Aset was the Egyptian name of Isis, or then that Isis is actually the Roman Greek name. But they'll sit there and they'll quote these gods and talk about this mythology, and they'll use all of this stuff. And a lot of these guys, you'll find them standing outside of your you'll see them standing outside of your shopping districts talking about all of this black culture and black history. They'll be carrying their little books, this because these guys, they're hustlers. They'll sit there and be telling you about the white man is no good, the white man is the devil. I mean, it's hilarious. It's like unintentional comedy. I mean, it's like watching a comedy. I hate the white man is the devil, and it's hilarious to watch. And they'll be trying to sell you, their bean pies or their oils, kente oils, or because I've been in Harlem and I've seen this all the time, and these Afrocentric guys are hilarious, and I mean, it's like watching comedy, man. I mean, just watch them go into their dialogues, their diatribes. This stuff makes my stomach hurt sometimes when I watch it because it's just hilarious. These pro-black guys, and the fun part is just watching them talk all this stuff. But then when you go to them and ask them to take a constructive action, like support a black-owned business, this is where they crumble in the dust. That's where they come to you with their shaming tactics, like, "Why don't you support my black-owned business?" Like, you're on a street corner selling books, and bad books at that. Books that are I can pretty much deconstruct and refute, you know, using basic information and basic information on Wikipedia, basic information in a sixth grade encyclopedia. But this is what they do, and these Afrocentric dudes, they're hilarious. I mean, they sit around. Again, it's a gimmick that they use to get women to pay attention to them. And the reason why I call them Afrocentrics is because one, they're Afrocentric. Two, they're simps. Plain and simple, they're just simps because everything they do is about talking about how great the black woman is, how wonderful she is, how great a queen she is. Everything is about submitting to the woman. The woman is the mother of the earth. The woman is the mother of everything. She birthed the earth. I mean, stuff that is completely hilarious when you listen to it. And everything is about appeasing the woman, pleasing the woman. You shouldn't put the woman on. She should be your queen. She should be the. You should make her great. Really, and then what makes it hilarious is how hypocritical it is because this guy he sits there, he talks about how the black woman is a queen and how she's a goddess, and he's hilarious. He sits there, talks about how much of a goddess and a queen she is, but all the while he's sitting in a home with a white woman, living off of her. I mean, most of these Afrocentric guys, they have white wives or they have white girlfriends, and they're living off of them, and they're talking about how the black woman is a queen. Do you see the hypocrisy in this? Do you see the contradiction here when it comes to the statements that they're making? You know, and then when you ask these guys, what type of job do you have? What type of work? It's like, I don't want to work for the white man. Because I had one when I was living in Park Avenue in the Bronx. Same thing, so-called Muslim. Talking about, I don't want to work for no white man. I don't want to work for, because he lived right up under us. I don't want to work for no white man. Meanwhile, all the while, living off of women. But these guys will sit there and talk about how the black man was the original man, how the black man was strong, how the black man was the leader. Well, I thought the job of the leader was to hunt and gather and provide for the woman. But then it comes out of these Afrocentric dudes. They run this con, and that's where the trick part comes in. That's why I call them Afrocentrics, because they talk Afro, which is the pro-black part, the simp, which is the submitting to black women and living off of black women, and the trick, which is the con that they pull on women and people all over the world, is that they talk about how they're so pro-black, how they care about the black community, and how they want to rebuild the black community. I mean, these guys are hilarious. I mean, it's like when you listen to them go into their diatribes and their rants, I mean, if you're not laughing at this, there's something wrong with you because this is pure comedy. These guys talk about how they're going to be builders, how they're going to rebuild. I mean, how are you going to rebuild the black community when you're living off a woman? I mean, most of these guys, I've run into them all, throughout my journeys. Most of them either have a white woman that they're living off of, or they're living off a series of black women, or they're playing a series of black women with this gimmick that they've got. None of them have a job. None of them have a business. They have a hustle, where they sell these books and these Kente oils that they bought from, some Chinese supplier. Because they bought it from a Korean. They bought it from a Korean. And, they buy and they're wearing sitting there with the made in Taiwan. These guys are hilarious. I mean, when you break down all of their contradictions, and all of their actions, they're going to rebuild the black community. They don't know the first thing. I mean, I think Walter Lee Younger from A Raisin in the Sun knew more about business than some of these pro-black back to Africa Negroes. I mean, this guy does not know anything about business licenses. He does not know anything about, opening a store. And some of them, they do know how to open stores, but they don't know anything about customer service or sales or merchandising or marketing. I have no business plan whatsoever. I'm just going to open up a store. Just like the scene in Do the Right Thing, the guy says he's going to open up a store. I mean, this is what your pro-black does. He's hilarious. I mean, it's like watching Benny Hill or something like that, or watching, stand-up. It's like watching Little Rascals, Three Stooges. It's just hilarious to watch. we gonna rebuild the black community. We gonna make it a place for black people. And then they sit there and they espouse things with these 50-cent words, and they use these shaming tactics because anybody who disagrees with them, they come at you, approach you just like a female with these shaming tactics in hopes of silencing you, and because the whole world, because they're gonna take over the world, rebuild the black community with blocks of shea butter, kente oil, incense, bean pies, cornbread, and these guys are hilarious. I mean, these Afrocentric dudes, and then your cousin, the Hoteps. We come from the Egyptians. Now, the Egyptians were black. I'll give you that point. The Egyptians, because Nubia was the sister nation of Egypt, and the Egyptians were black, and the Nubians were black. I'll give you that point. But these guys talk about how they're descended from the Egyptians and all this other stuff, and these Afrocentrics. It's misinformation. A lot of it is misinformation. When you can just go into a sixth grade or a fourth grade book about ancient Egypt, and most of the information they present to you can be refuted in that sixth grade or fourth grade text. Because I've done the research myself on Egyptian mythology when I was doing it, when I write the ISIS series. I've done all the research on it. And your Afrocentric, he's just a con artist. He's a game player. And any time you run into these pro-black, back to Africa Negroes, it's all comedy. And that's just the most hilarious thing you will ever see. And I've had, Facebook friends like Michael Willis, get into it with them on Facebook and expose them and show you, what they're truly like. And everything that they say, again, is fake. And the whole thing is it's a gimmick that they use to get the attention of women, to get women taking care of them. And this is the whole contradiction of it. Again, I said this before in a video. It's a contradiction in the fact that, if the man is supposed to be the leader and the head of the family, and he's supposed to be helping to provide for the family, why is he putting the burden on the woman? Why is he living off the woman? Because most of these pro-black back to African Negroes, they always have a woman that they're living with, whether it be a black woman, a white woman. Usually it's white women who fall for this gimmick, and they have some black women who fall for it. And they're always living in their house. This is the same guy, made in Taiwan, dashiki, kufi, selling kente oils and blocks of shea butter he got from a Korean on the street, and he's living in this black woman's house or this white woman's house, and he's acting like he's doing something, and he's gonna he's gonna rebuild the black community on blocks of shea butter. Just hilarious when you think about it. I can't stop myself from laughing because I'm gonna I'm gonna rebuild the black community on blocks of shea butter and bean pies. No real plan for developing a real business or real entrepreneurism. This Afrocentric con artist is just looking for somebody to live off of. This is the same guy who's sitting there wearing Air Jordan tennis shoes and playing an Xbox, talking about how you need to go back to Africa while he's sitting here in America living off of other people. He's basically, a bum. But no one will say that he's a bum. I mean, he's a con artist. I mean, plain and simple. And black people just need to understand, most of your pro-black back to African Negroes are hustlers, or con men. They've always been con men. They're just con men who wear red, black, and green, raise the fist, and talk about how much they are all about black people when they really aren't about black people. Whenever you talk to these guys and you start getting serious like I do, talking about group economics, black-owned businesses, working with black-owned businesses, developing a real business plan, developing, working with other black businesses, creating different materials, and, doing things like property ownership, talking about wealth, talking about, things that will help build a black community. These guys will start launching into their shaming tactics with the 50-cent words. They'll start, saying that you don't know what you're talking about. My favorite deflection You're just like the white man. You're talking like a white man. I mean, but how do you? This is America. How do you expect to own anything if you don't understand the language of business? And this is what's insane about these pro-black back to Africa Negroes. They want to. A lot of these guys. If I put these guys in the Sudan or one of these other countries, these guys would fall apart because they don't know how to function. They don't even know how to function here in America. They're living off of women and talking about, you know, I want to be go back to Africa. You don't even know how to function in America, but you want to go back to Africa. It's just insane when you think about it. And the craziest part is it's just a gimmick that they use, and a lot of people can't see through the gimmick. I saw through the gimmick many years ago. I mean, back when I was a little boy, guy was living about 2 floors under me, running this game, and he was talking about the white man. He ain't gonna work for no white man. Where are the black-owned businesses? And this is what I had to think about. Where are the black-owned businesses that you're gonna work at? This guy's sitting up here living off of women, having women take care of him, but he's not gonna work for a white man. Well, when we see the black-owned businesses, or guys like me who are trying to build the black-owned businesses, these are the guys who don't want to work there. Then they come at you with something else like, I don't want to work at that type of company. I ain't got those type of skills. I'm in management. It's like, Negro, are you serious? Are you serious? Somebody offers you a job, and this is the way you act. But this is the way your pro-black Afrocentric back to Africa Negro comes at you. I mean, there is no logic in anything he says. He is not a leader. He's not a leader class male. He's just a hustler. He's a gimmick. The Afrocentric gimmick is what they use to get the attention of women, to con women into believing that they're some sort of guru, some sort of expert, some sort of, really intelligent guy, because he uses these 50-cent words to make himself appear intelligent. But, if he had to apply that knowledge like an intelligent person, he wouldn't know how to do it. I mean, he sounds educated, but he's not educated at all. He's not intelligent. He does not know how to apply knowledge. He does not know how to use knowledge towards building himself up. He just knows how to use the knowledge, as a gimmick to get women's attention. And the women think that he's so smart. They allow this guy. They try to give him a hand. They try to help him out. And usually, some of them don't see. Some women see it. Others don't. I mean, after some of them don't see it. Some of them after the 6, 7, 8 month mark. Because eventually, usually this guy's con is to try to get you to move him into your home so he can continue eating up all your food, using your toilet paper, having a place to stay, shaming you, because he uses shaming tactics to get everything. Shaming you into buying him Air Jordans, shaming you into buying him an Xbox. You talk about, how the white man is oppressing him, how he needs reparations, you know, you need to give me reparations because the white man is oppressing me. Boy, you're going to the black woman. I mean, do you see the logic here and how dysfunctional the logic is? You go, and he likes to use this gimmick on white women, especially. The white man is oppressing me, and you need to give me reparations. This is compensation, for my oppression. I mean, this is the type of stuff that these guys like to go into. You know, see that phrase I just did? That's some of the shaming tactic gimmicks that they try to go into. I need compensation for my oppression. And you'll sit there, you'll buy him Xbox games, you'll buy him video games. He'll go out, and then you ask him, go look for a job. And he'll say, the white man ain't gonna give me no job. Um, the system is completely against the black man, because that's why I need to stay here and start my own business. And you'll spend money on business cards and all this other foolishness. And he'll go out and get himself a table, no permit, and talk about how he's selling stuff, and he's gonna be the king of shea butter, that he bought from a Korean. Um, and he's gonna buy this Korean shea butter. He's gonna be standing out there with his kente oils and his other stuff, his incense, his pro-black back to Africa books. I tell you, it's a gimmick. It's a racket, man. I mean, there's some Koreans probably sending their kids to college based on all of this stuff that these pro-black back to Africa Negroes buy from them. I truly believe there's a company out there, the Koreans that are selling this stuff to these guys. And these guys are standing out on the street. They got the little permit. Some of them, most of them ain't got no permits at all. They're just selling stuff. Some of them will sell bootleg DVDs, of stuff like Hidden Colors or other black movies. Because I was going to job training after I lost my job in 2008. I was going to job training, and I on 125th Street, and I would see these guys all down, from Lenox to about St. Nicholas. Just see them, just walking down 125th Street. These pro-black back to African Negroes, trying to sell you, on their gimmick. And I could probably pretty much, or you also, there's some other type. There's another pro-black back to African Negro. You're a Hotep type of Negro. Same thing, selling you Egyptian mythology, fake Egyptian mythology, because the real one, I can refute this stuff in a fourth grade text. And they're selling you all sorts of gimmicks. And most of these guys are living with white women. Most of them have biracial children. And many of them, they have all sorts of gimmicks. And they're all throughout Harlem. You have the other artsy types, and I went into this in my blog. This is a two-part blog on these Afrocentric Negroes. And because part one was about these black men, but then there's the other part, which is the black women, these boho chicks, the ones who are always having these one-woman shows. They're always writing plays. They're sitting in the Starbucks or the coffee house with the herbal tea, with the big natural afros, and they're using shaming tactics. They have all these standards talking about, how I can't have sex until I'm married to a black man. But then when a white man rolls up, they're in the bathroom, dropping the panties as fast as they can. But this is your pro-black, that's your pro-black Afrocentric woman, your boho. And both of them, they talk about how much they hate the white man is oppressing them. When really, these are the biggest, irony is that they're the biggest exploiters of the black community. And they are the first ones to pull the victim card whenever somebody black calls them on their nonsense. I mean, they're the ones to come into the shaming tactics. They're the ones talking about, somebody, you're trying to oppress them, you're an Uncle Tom, you're a sellout, you're a coon, you're a black buffoon. This is what they do. But the irony is, they are, the ones exploiting the black community. They're the biggest con artists out there. And they really are coons and buffoons, a lot of them, because they're not pro-black at all. They're just pro themselves. And they just use this gimmick as a way to, get into the homes of white people. Really, they don't hate the white man. They just want what he has. They're really just jealous of white people, and they want to be just like white people. But they use this as a way to get in the door. I mean, these guys truly, these pro-black Afrocentrics and bohos, are your Uncle Toms. I mean, because when they get up there, like your Alice Walkers, they're the first ones to throw black people up under the bus. I mean, if you really look at, because she's a pure Afrocentric, your Alice Walker. Here's this woman talking about how pro-black she is, Afro dreadlocks, all that stuff, and she marries a white man. Threw black man under the bus with the color purple. Later on, becomes a lesbian. I mean, purely an Afrocentric, right there, Afrocentric boho female. And there's Afrocentric males, the same thing as your FBI informant, Maluna Karenga, I think that's who he is. Another high-profile Afrocentric, creator of Kwanzaa, comical holiday, hilarious. Most black people do not even follow. Most of your Afrocentrics who talk about Kwanzaa never follow any of the principles of Kwanzaa, especially the the Ujamaa, the group economics concept. None of these Negroes ever follow that concept at all. These are the first ones who will be, Black Friday, standing outside the store, ready to buy that new pair of Air Jordan tennis shoes. That's what you're gonna see. And when you deal with these Afrocentric guys, it's just pure comedy. I mean, I've had so many laughs just reading the things that they say and watching the things that they do. Because again, they live in my neighborhood. I mean, I remember back then my mother was telling me about him, and I would see this guy. He hated the white man, but he sure loved living off of women. If you're supposed to be this black man who's supposed to be pro-black, why is it that you can't go out and start your own business? Why is it that you're not trying to work with other black businessmen? Why are you not trying to improve the black community? None of these guys will sit there. They will just they spend half their day, sitting around playing Xbox, the other half smoking weed or just chasing women. And they're supposed to be the kings. I thought the king was supposed to be the leader of the community. He was supposed to be setting a course for the community, supposed to be setting a plan for the community, have an economic plan for the community, and supposed to be setting an agenda and a direction for the community. But when it comes to these pro-black Afrocentric dudes, you never see any of this type of, sense of community, sense of leadership, sense of direction. They never set goals. They never have a plan for what they want to do in life or what they want to do for the community. They'll sit there, they'll do these little cheesy entertain, like I said with the bohos, they'll write these little one-woman shows, or they'll sit there and talk about these plays, and that's really a grant money hustle. And the same thing with a lot of these Afrocentric guys. They do the same thing, talk about how they're going to write a book or how they're going to, make this play, or it's always something entertainment related when it comes to your Afrocentric. Talking about how they want to improve the image of black people, but they never finish anything. And this is something as a writer, I've seen in my 25, 30 years of being a writer, you know, these guys never finish anything. And this is what your Afrocentric does. They sit there, they always have a plan for something. They're always talking about what they're going to do, what they're about. But they never, finish anything. They never set a goal for anything. And then when they see other people finishing things or, trying to promote something, they're the first ones to tell you there's something wrong with that. That ain't no good. And these are the same guys. They'll sit there and they'll give a free pass to, your drug dealers, your gangster rappers. They'll talk about how he has to sell drugs and crazy stuff. I was watching the David Carroll video. He talked about we ain't got how these guys will sit there and say we ain't got no planes, we ain't got no trains, we didn't bring no drugs in the community. And you sit there and you go, you don't have to sell it, dude. You don't have to sell it. These are the same guys who don't understand. Just because it's here, you don't have to sell it. Because I saw this argument, played out with Coca-Cola a couple of years ago. And a lot of people are going to ask me, what does Coca-Cola have to do with this? Now, in 2004, Coca-Cola came out with this. They replaced their 2-liter bottle with this 1.5-liter bottle. And they tried to sell people on buying the smaller bottle with less soda in it under something called smooth serve, saying that the soda would pour smoother into the bottle, into the glass. And, having less soda would be better for you. Needless to say, people didn't buy it here in New York at all. The 1.5-liter bottle sat there and sat there and sat there. And people didn't buy it. And by 2006, 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola was back on the shelf, because what happened was PepsiCo and Goodo and every other company lowered the price of their 2-liter bottles and said, we're giving you an extra 0.5 liters of soda. So when I thought about that, I said, that pretty much refutes the argument that people have about, these pro-black African Negroes have about, we don't have no planes, we don't have no trains, we have to sell these drugs. You don't have to buy it. Just like you didn't buy the Coca-Cola in the 1.5-liter bottle when Coca-Cola tried to sell you on the smooth serve, saying that by getting less soda, you were getting, glasses that wouldn't fizz out. You don't have to buy the drugs. You don't have to sell the drugs. Same thing in my neighborhood. They had this bread called Butter Top White. Now, this is all they would stock at your supermarket everywhere I went. And, people weren't buying it. They just didn't buy it. They said it was nasty because, your Butter Top White, what happens is you put it in the oven for toast, it burns. You try to make a sandwich with it, it crumbles, and no one would buy this bread. And eventually, the Stroman company that distributes bread here in the Bronx stopped stocking that bread because no one was buying it. Same thing, same argument that, your Afrocentric has about, we don't have no planes, we don't have no trains. You don't have to sell drugs, you don't have to buy the drugs. If you don't sell it and you don't buy it, guess what? It goes away, just like the 1.5 liter bottle of Coca-Cola and the butter top white bread just goes away. Because basic economic principle is this: as long as there's a demand, there's going to be a supply. And I know that these idiots, these pro-black back to Africa chokers, are going to say, I need to supply the drugs, so that's the demand. And it's because these guys are illogical. If nobody black bought the drugs in the black community, no, nobody sold the drugs black in the community, the drugs would go away. That's as simple as that. But I know I went off on that, but I was just trying to make a point. This is the type of illogical circular reasoning, because a lot of these guys, they come from female-headed households, and this is the way they think. You know, they again, they think like women, shaming tactics, because this is how he gets around. Everything is about trying to silence real intelligent people, or people who have views that are different from them, or people who can present facts that don't fit within their dysfunctional framework. Because your Afrocentric, he's the ultimate con artist. He thinks, he tries to make himself look bigger than he actually is. He's really a joker and a clown. Like I said, it's just like a WWE wrestling gimmick earlier in the video, like your John Cena, like your Brock Lesnar, like your Rey Mysterio. It's a gimmick that they use to get your attention. You know, even I'd even go as far as saying it's just like a Ben Cooper Halloween costume. Um, with when it comes to these jokers, your Afrocentrics, and it's just like watching. I mean, it's just pure comedy. Whenever you run into these type of guys, everything with them is, you know, they hate the white man. The white man is no good. The white man is the devil. But when you ask them, what are you doing to help the black community besides trying to become the king of shea butter and kente oil and pro-black back to Africa literature, and or stage plays, or one-man shows that you have at Starbucks or whatever cheeseball coffee house, because these are all the trades that these guys get into, because they don't have any real business skills and any real skills, because they hate the white man. They hate the white man's infrastructure. White man's the devil, so they don't want to do anything that's related to the white man. Really, is they just don't want to work. They don't want to put no hours in. They don't want to make no effort. They really don't want to build a black community up, because that's going to be hard work, and they don't like to work hard. Your pro-black back to African Negro, he does not want to work. He really just wants to sponge off of white women, because he's going to get his reparations. He needs again, like I said, I need compensation through reparation, and I'm getting my compensation, but from this black woman, not from this black woman, from this white woman to give to these black queens. That's the type of hilarious, you know, unintentional comedy that these Negroes engage in. I mean, when you deal with your pro-black back to African Negroes, I mean, I even wrote an entire episode all about Nikki, about them, called forget what it's in the season 2 book, but it was about this boho chick and how she tried to use her shaming tactics in her head games, and it was one of the funniest episodes I ever wrote. Um, because again, I've had personal experience with them. Um, see if I can bring it up. Um, okay, but it was an all about Nikki episode that I wrote about them, and it was hilarious. And I talk about these and she was dealing with a pro black, and I know what it's called, All About Face, and it was about this pro black back to Africa chick. She was trying to start something with Nikki, and Nikki shows her who her real self is in this episode. And at the end of that episode, we find this pro black back to Africa chick. She's exposed with her eating cornbread and spare ribs with her white boyfriend. It's a hilarious episode. I really recommend you go get Nikki season 2 to read it. Um, and this is your pro black Afrocentric Negro. They come in male, they come in female. Made in Taiwan kufis, made in Taiwan dashikis, made in Taiwan kaftans, selling Korean made kente oils, and Korean made shea butter. They're gonna become the bosses of the shea butter market. They're gonna, because I've been to the Circle of Sisters Expo. I mean, man, I saw so much shea butter. It's not even funny. I mean, shea butters, kufis, kente oils, incense, pro-black back to Africa literature. I mean, I've been to so many Circle of Sisters trade shows, hair care products, natural hair care products. Oh, these are all the businesses that your pro-black back to Africa Negro loves the hair care oil market, where they get these again, bought from a Korean supply house, gonna sell you to you as 100% African natural. This is their business. Their whole business is hustling the black community. They are not about, group economics or building a black community of homes and families. I mean, because he already has a home and a family in the suburbs with his white woman, and he's just using, your black woman as his side piece. And he's using his Afrocentric gimmick to get women to be his side piece. Again, he's just as bad as your white supremacist. I mean, I'd even dare to say he's just like your white supremacist. He's just jealous that he doesn't have the economic and political power of your white supremacists. I wanted to go on a little bit more in depth from where I went in the previous blog about the Afrocentrics and the bohos, because I did two blogs, I think in 2013, about these subjects, about these about these dysfunctional, you know, veg. Again, another part of them is like I also did in the All About Face. They talk about how they're vegetarian and how they eat everything they eat comes from the earth and all of this stuff. I mean, I know these guys like the back of my hand, and I know all of their tactics and all their games. Everything I eat comes from the earth, Act. Yet this same dude is wolfing down is in a rib shack talking about how he wants some ribs. And the herbal tea chick talking about how she's a vegetarian, and you just saw her with some cornbread and some ribs. I mean, this is the type of insanity that you get when you deal with these Afrocentric Negroes. I mean, and again, it's just a con. It's a con, and if you have to be certain time, you have to be if you're not schooled in it, you will fall for it. They're 50 cent because they use their 50 cent words as a way to seg into their shaming tactics and their shaming language, and in an attempt to get you to feel bad. And their whole thing is they just want to hustle people. They're not about no group economics. They're not about building a black. Again, I keep saying this, building a black community. They're not against stopping gentrification. Um, they're not about home ownership, and establishing wealth. They're not about that. Oh, that's acting white for them. And when you deal with this pro-black back to African Negro, it's just, again, it's like watching an unintentional comedy, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote the All About Face episode, in the All About Nikki season 2 book was to just literally show you how hilarious a lot of this stuff is. Um, and when you deal with these Afrocentrics, all you can do is just their misinformation, their miseducation. You know, it's just sad. It's just sad to see. What they really do is they impede the progress of black people who are trying to do something to build something in the black community. And all they do is they get in the way with their rhetoric, their comical rhetoric. Because a lot of people who don't understand the difference between an Afrocentric and a person who truly cares about the black community, they get caught up in the middle of it, and they wind up being, exploited by these con artists. Um, and the thing is that they will always want to make themselves out to be the victim, because they're always the victim of. I mean, I know there's white supremacy out there, I know there's racism out there, but these guys are like perpetual victims. Everybody is always at fault. Nobody's always doing something wrong to them. It's always the white man. The white man is the devil. But they never want to take any responsibility for themselves or responsibility for their actions. They never want to work towards, getting your own and building your own. Um, they're trying to build a world based on the blocks of shea butter. Um, and how are you going to build things on shea butter that is flown in and sold by Koreans. I just don't get it. And you just, again, this is why you have to judge the black people you see by their actions, not by their words. And this is what the Afrocentric does. They're masters of words, but they're not masters of action. And this is why, the pro-black community has gone nowhere in 40 years, because all they know how to do is talk. They do not know how to do. They do not know how to network with those who can do, and they do not know how to step up to the plate. They have no interest in stepping up to the plate. They sit from and eat from the same plate of white liberals, because this is how they live. They find white liberals who feel sorry for them and who will take them into their home, and they eat from the same plate of white people that they so-called hate and say are oppressing them. They're getting the same plate from them, and even getting a better plate than your average working guy, because they're sitting in the house with the white woman or the white man, and being taken care of, because a lot of them, they do not work. I tell you this factually, just listening to them and seeing them on the street and stuff. They don't really work. They hustle. They'll make a few dollars here and there, but they're not working towards anything serious, or working towards building wealth, or taking themselves to the next level. This is just pocket money that they get here and there while they live off of, their white girlfriend or their white boyfriend or their white wife or their white husband. These same black guys will sit there and talk about how it's natural for the man to care for the home, and all other sorts of insane things, or how the woman is supposed to be an artist, or how she's supposed to be a leader, or all the stuff that's completely contradictory to everything anyone ever knew about Africa or African culture. And because I've talked to people who are from Africa, and even they find these pro-black back to Africa Negroes to be hilarious and just downright silly. And I know this video is going on long, but you're pro-black back to African Negro, you're Afrocentric, you're boho. Again, they just need to be avoided at all costs. They just need to be ridiculed and shamed for what they are, because they're just unintentional comedy, walking contradictions. Everything that they say contradicts everything that they do, and they're not really about building a black community. They're really about depending on white supremacy, and really they're just jealous of the white man. They don't hate the white man, they're just jealous of him and what he has, and what they want to do is have it for themselves, but they don't want to do any work to get anything. Their whole position is just pure comedy. When you take a good hard look at it, it's just hilarious, because again, their words and their actions, their 50-cent words don't match their penny actions, and everything that they do is just small change. It's just small change. That's why nothing has changed in the black community. When you deal with these Afrocentrics, when you really look at them, they may start on a table and then 5 years later still be at that table. They may start 10 years ago at a table and still be at that table. They will not be working towards, building on their brand or expanding their product line, because all their product line comes from was made in Korea. They're not going to go anywhere, and all they're going to do is just get in the way of decent black people, because really they just out to hustle decent black people with their Afrocentric gimmick. They're not about doing anything constructive, and this is something you have to understand when you deal with your Afrocentric Negro, and pro-black back to Africa Negro, that behind the words, the action is next to nothing. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment and rate and subscribe.